Hello, my name is Brandon Chukimarka, and today I'm going to be discussing an issue that is getting harder to ignore every single day that passes by. That is climate change and its global effects. There is a clock in the middle of Manhattan. This clock represents how much time we have left until climate change is irreversible. There are 4 years left on this clock. That means that there are 4 years left until climate change is irreversible. Climate Clock 2024. The first step in climate change is understanding what causes climate change and what effect it has on us. Climate change affects everyone. It affects the health we have, it affects the food we eat, it affects the water we drink, the homes we live in. I care a lot about climate change. That is why I use credible sources from Yale, World Health Organization, and the United Nations. There are three main points: that sea levels are rising a lot because of climate change, that food and water shortages are detrimental and rapidly rising in certain regions, and that health risks are a huge, huge impact because of climate change. Let's talk about the main cause of climate change. It is the burning of fossil fuels that cause climate change, such as coal, oil, and gas. These are used for electricity, transportation, and factories, but in turn, they cause carbon dioxide emissions. These carbon dioxide emissions are trapped into the atmosphere, which cause a warming effect. This effect is known as global warming, United Nations 2023. There's this chart by Housefather Z. It shows the annual dioxide emissions, and we see how it is rapidly increasing over time. Housefather Z 2024. Climate change is affecting the rising of sea levels. Our oceans are rapidly rising. This is a huge issue to our community. The rate has more than doubled since the 1900s. Lindsay 2023. There is a coastal flooding and coastal erosion all around the coastal region, which means that it is harder to live in these certain regions. But not only is it hard to live in these regions, the salt water is also invading these people's drinking water and their fresh supplies of water, which makes it much harder to get fresh water. EPA 2023. Climate change affects food and water drastically because of the extreme weather conditions. It affects the crops and the fisheries. Food supplies are at risk drastically because of the climate change, because of this weather heating that we're seeing. And these regions that rely heavily on these crops and fisheries are suffering drastically. United Nations 2023. Salt water is contaminating rivers. And an example of this is in New Orleans, where we see the salt water invading the Mississippi River, infecting these people's drinking water, which means that they have a limited supply of fresh water. Robbins 2025. Climate change affects people's health. The World Health Organization says that between 2030 and between 2050, there will be 250,000 extra deaths per year. World Health Organization 2023. This extra 250,000 deaths is caused by heat-related illnesses, malnutrition, and diseases. But it's even worse for people who have asthma, allergies, and heart issues, especially with the extreme weather conditions caused by the heat. So in the summertime, it is going to be very difficult for these people. An example of climate change affecting people's health is with the red sky we saw in New York City just a couple years ago in 2023, where the Californian wildfires were actually caused by climate change because climate change caused a severe drought, which made it easier to ignite these trees, which made the wildfires spread drastically across many places. And we saw in New York City how it was difficult to breathe. And so these people are going to have severe issues over time because of climate change. To conclude, climate change is caused by the burning of fossil fuels, and climate change causes sea levels to rise, which impacts people's homes. We see how food and water shortages are threatened in certain nations, and how health risks are increasing because of climate change. The clock is still ticking. There is only 4 years left to make a change, and the best way to make a change is to spread awareness. Thank you.